Hello F11 members, I'm just editing the video blog for issue 83. It's all about a shoot that I've been working on for much of this year, Chesil Beach, one of the most distinctive features on the Jurassic Coast. Back in early April I did a shoot down overlooking Chesil Beach, Abbotsbury and Portland, and although I had really nice spring light and I managed to produce this picture, which I'm very pleased of St Catherine's Chapel there with the first light on it and some cattle on the hill, I didn't feel that the panorama I made that morning, this shot here, really did the scene justice. I felt it could be done better, maybe in a couple of months' time when I'd get more side lighting from the sun coming up to the northeast. And so I went back in June when the days were seriously long. So it's early June and I'm planning my return to Chesil Beach and Abbotsbury for tomorrow morning, because despite these grey overcast conditions we've got here today, the forecast is looking really good. Because it's mid-June, it's going to be a really early start, but I need to double check my camera bags. Particularly because I've been working from different bags over the last few weeks, and when you're changing from one to the other it's so easy to miss something vital like filter rings or quick release plate. Easy to go out with the wrong quick release plate on the camera. So check and check again, it's always worthwhile. Morning, early rise today, 2:45 rise. It's a gorgeous morning and the sun's rising over there, obviously, way to the north of east, with Chesil Beach over here to the southeast. So using the 24-70mm here, and I'm hoping to produce a panorama this morning, and we've got some cloud in the sky as well, which is looking good. So I'm hoping as the sun rises here that pinkiness might start spreading through the sky, so there could be an option for a picture then. And then the next phase of the shoot will be when the actual sun rises and we get the first rays of light cross-lighting the landscape below, with the village of Abbotsbury down below and the chapel there, that famous chapel on its mound with Chesil Beach beyond. I always set the tripod up too high and end up standing on my bloody tiptoes trying to look through the eyepiece. I still like looking through the eyepiece, you know. Okay, live view's great, but I don't think you can beat looking through an eyepiece to really fine-tune the composition. Using the polarizing filter here. There's no direct sunlight yet on the scene, and yet if I just hold the polarizer up to the sky and rotate it, I can see the effect it's having on the sky, the colors in the sky. So because I'm using cross lighting, it's a definite situation for a polarizing filter. Let's just come down a bit on the height, make life easier. You'll notice I've got hat on and multiple layers. Here we are in June and yet it's still pretty fresh. So I'm just ensuring I've got a dead level tripod head here using this self-leveling plate that I've got on my Gitzo tripod. Really, it's a really useful addition because I don't need to fuss with my tripod legs to ensure everything's dead level. And that's really important because I'm going to be making a panorama here and I need to be able to rotate the camera on an absolutely level tripod. So it's 4:58 now, sunrise now over there. Can't see the sun yet, but hopefully its effect on the landscape will start becoming apparent fairly soon. So I'm using a 0.6 neutral density grad medium filter here because the sky is much brighter than the landscape at the moment. So I've got both the polarizer and the grad filter in use here. Of course I could do it with exposure blending, but there's something really satisfying about doing it all here in camera. And there's some nice pinky tones in the sky here, so maybe something's working. So I'm checking the histogram here, and what I've got here is the brightness histogram, and then above it the histogram broken down into the 3 RGB color channels. And the advantage of looking at both is we just get more information. So sometimes it can look as if your brightness histogram is giving you a perfect exposure, whereas an examination of the RGB histograms really reveals clipping in one color channel. In this particular instance, I can afford to give this exposure a bit more, probably another third or maybe even 2/3 of a stop exposure, overexposure compensation to move that whole histogram display to the right. So the shot I really want is a panorama. So I'm starting a panorama here, rotating the camera from left to right. I've got manual exposure set. I need to overlap my frames by at least 1/3. I need to shade the front of the lens, particularly with the ones looking that way from the direct sunlight. And I need to make sure that the exposure is the same right through the sequence of pictures to be merged, which is why I'm using manual exposure mode. The light at the moment is still not really that apparent on the landscape, but there's some nice pinky tones in the sky, which is why I'm attempting a shoot now.
How many frames are you doing?
I haven't counted. What is it, about 6? Better to have more than fewer. So you always go wider than you need. You can always crop it down. So I've widened the angle top and bottom a bit to include this foreground grass here, which is picking up this early light quite nicely. But the light's milking out and losing its power, and there's a bit of murk hanging over Portland. So it's not quite coming together as I'd hoped, but I think about 5-10 minutes ago there was a lovely subtlety to the light, so that may have been the decisive moment. So the sun has come through on the scene, and I think I've got something worthwhile this morning. Just how good I'm not sure, but it was definitely worth getting up at 2:45 for, and now the call of breakfast is just too strong. So that was the story of my shoot back in June, which I think worked pretty well, but I still came away feeling that the location had more potential. And so in October, just a few weeks back, I went back again to try and shoot the same scene, but this time using late afternoon autumnal light coming from the southwest. And these are the pictures. I'm really quite pleased with this one panorama, this shot here. It all came together really well. This beautiful side lighting on the scene, on the village as well of Abbotsbury, on the chapel there, and Chesil Beach sweeping into towards Portland. A nice sky with some interesting detail there, and I even got the moon in the shot. So I felt that finally that had come together. It really just shows you that really working a location, going back numerous times, experimenting with different lighting situations, different times of the day, different times of the year, really works.